We use the Regions mobile app all the time to deposit our checks.
The Regions Next Step project is helping real customers like Ashley confidently take their next step in life.
They have an option on there where you can do same-day availability, which is so convenient. We are so ready to take our next step.
Visit a Regions branch or log on to regions.com/nextstep. Regions, official bank of the SEC. Member FDIC. Paid appearance by an actual Regions customer telling her real story. Mobile banking and mobile deposit are subject to terms, conditions, and fees.
I'm Dan Graziano, and on the next edition of the NFL Nation podcast, I break down the Raiders-Texans Monday Night Football matchup in Mexico City with Sarah Barshop and Paul Gutierrez of ESPN.com.
Down Eagles. Can I get an amen from you? Shut your mouth, Paul. I ain't done yet. I'll slap you around, Jack.
This is the Paul Finebaum Show. Now, Paul Finebaum.
And one of the highlights every single Friday is when we get Brent Musburger to call in. We can't wait as we welcome you back to Baton Rouge. But today, we save the quarter.
That's it.
The nickel, whatever.
It didn't have to fire up the truck. How are you, Paul?
It is so good to see you, Brent, and belated congratulations. Last Friday, when we normally talk to you, you were en route back from being awarded the Vin Scully Achievement Award at Fordham.
Yeah.
And then they
honored
you by making you do the first half by yourself.
Who knew I was going to have to work hard?
That had to be a great honor, though. You've had many.
It really was. You know, I actually worked with him.
Sure.
Some in the old days, some baseball games, and when I lived in Los Angeles and worked locally out there, I would always see him at Dodger Stadium. And a class individual, Paul, truly an icon. And I see he's going to get the Medal of Freedom. He's going to go to the White House. Much deserved. Wonderful man.
Now, was my memory correct? And I'm going back a long time. When you were in L.A., were you actually the anchor?
I was.
I
worked with. Do you remember Connie Chung?
Of course.
We anchored the 6 o'clock news
amazing.
Together. Okay. And when it first started, they would actually have me take a beat about midway through the 30 minutes and then do the sports report for a couple of minutes and then come. And I said, and I think they understood, too. It just doesn't seem right. Then they gave me a choice. You want to stay in hard news or you want to go? And I was really I'm a sports guy. I enjoy it. So.
How did you gravitate toward being a news anchor?
They asked me.
You just thought it was?
They came to me and said, would you go work this? And I said, well, yeah, okay. So it was a great experience. Connie remains she's married to Maury Povich. Sure. Okay. They've got another place up in Montana up around Kalispell where they spend part of the time in the summer. So, listen, it was a good experience for me. Okay. But there's a nicer stories in sports than in hard news when you cover it every day.
No, Connie Chung was she was the anchor of the CBS Evening News. That went over very well with some people.
No, I know that.
But she was a great
chemistry did not. Our chemistry was really good. Okay, we really got along.
Better than her and Dan.
I had to depend on her. Whereas I think when she wound up in the Evening News, the other dude said, "You depend on me," and that wasn't how I looked at it at all.
The other dude, Dan Rather. We're taking some old timers way back, but I vaguely remember that because I followed you pretty closely back then when you were in Chicago,
right.
and obviously since then. Let's talk. So you're doing the game last week. I mean, you could. I mean, Brent, you could broadcast traffic if you wanted to, but what was that like? I'm sure you've done that before, but probably not lately.
It was different. So I just told myself I'm going to stay as far away from the X's and O's as I can. I'm going to stay with the Jimmies and the Joes. I'm going to be as basic as I can. And when I get to a instant replay on a ruling. I'm going to ask the fans to make up their own mind as they watch the replay, as I'm watching it. You know, John Madden taught all of us a great lesson, and some people didn't get it. Don't start talking right away. Sometimes the camera sees more than the naked eye at all times, okay? John was a master at watching the replays and then making up his mind. Don't make up your mind previously. So I tried to use a little of the Madden approach with the...
I'm curious because, I mean, every broadcaster has a different view, and particularly those who started farther back.
Right.
A lot of them came from radio. Today it's a totally different animal. But when you're doing a game, what is your mindset? What are you trying to communicate, disseminate to the audience?
Well, I think first of all, it's about people, okay, and you try to tell their stories as the game unfolds, okay. Secondly, one of the big differences, because I've done so much with the NFL, the big difference between the college and NFL is the enthusiasm and the excitement that you get surrounding our particular game.
Right.
I mean, the cheerleaders, the bands, the crowds, the passion. And I tell everybody now, listen, when they get to the playoffs, there's nothing like a professional sport, whether it's football, whether we just went through the World Series, or whether it's the NBA. Those guys perform at a completely different level, and you appreciate it. But during the regular season, it's difficult for them to show up week in and week out because their games are so much more physical than what we have at the collegiate level. And I try to guide them along. I give a little controversy occasionally if there's something out there. Stir the pot a little bit. Give the Twitterati something to talk about. I mean, there's nothing nothing wrong with that, Paul. As a matter of fact, you do it yourself very well.
Occasionally, but I don't. I'm doing it.
How you doing with those Michigan people now? Are we okay? Are we all
right?
Well,
yeah. I have learned though. I used to take more pleasure in other people's misfortunes, but Michigan lost the other night. I said, let it go.
Right.
They're
Good
going
for you. Good for you.
It took me a while.
Yeah. But you weren't like Herbstreit. Herbstreit knocked him completely out of top four. The old Buckeye in him really came out. And the committee said, well, we'll let them play an elimination game, and one of them will fall by the wayside. That's basically what they're up to with the Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, there's a lot of politics. You and I know that with the committee choosing the four, all things being equal, they would prefer 4 different conferences to be represented. And I get that. I think I would feel the same way. Let's bring a diversity to the country into the 14 playoff.
But you did the BCS championship for so many years,
right.
And as screwy as that system was, most of the time, there was one exception that people didn't like, although it was the obvious game.
Right.
And that was the Alabama-LSU game.
Yeah, there's no question. That brought us the 14 playoff as much as any game because the other parts of the country didn't feel that they were included in the process, and we were giving the SEC untold advantage. You and I both know that the reason why the SEC got that is that they were by far the superior conference that year.
No, and I'm curious about something else because I'm involved in all this every day, starting from Sunday morning until the end of the week. This obsession we have now over the playoff. Do you feel like it's taking something away from the games? I mean, a game like tomorrow. I mean, you're preparing for it. People are invested in it, but it's almost like we forget there are actual games going on.
Exactly. Paul, it's postseason does that. I mean, the pros will tell you right now. How many friends do we have who say, I'm paying attention to the NBA till playoffs start, okay? So I understand why they went to the 4-team, but I think they have to be careful because let's take our game here. Let's take the LSU game, okay? They've got Florida coming in. If the Gators win, they're going to Atlanta as the SEC East champions, okay? That's very big to them to do that. Now, if LSU wins, they're one victory away, assuming that Alabama can handle Auburn at home, assuming that happens. Then LSU's one victory away over Texas A&M for going to the Sugar Bowl, which is big for them. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to overlook the other things that are involved in this. Let's say that Washington State or even Washington got to the Rose Bowl. It's a great accomplishment for them. They should, just because they don't get to the Final Four should not be completely overlooked.
I didn't appreciate that. You did the game. I was out there. It was Michigan State. Was it Michigan State and Stanford in 13?
Yeah.
I'd never been to the Rose Bowl, and I'm at that game, and I believe Michigan State won.
They did.
And I was watching the Big Ten fans celebrate. I'm like, well, what are they celebrating? The big game's next week. But I finally got what it meant.
Exactly. It means a lot to the Midwesterners. And down here in the SEC, winning the Sugar Bowl. Now, let's take Coach Orgeron. He might become the permanent head coach here at LSU if he could guide this team into the Sugar Bowl. Regardless of what happens in that particular game, they would, I think, feel obligated to give him a contract as the head coach.
It meant so much to Ole Miss fans last year.
No question.
And I think when Alabama goes, it is a consolation prize, but that's the outlier.
Exactly. If you're expected to go into the Final Four, as Alabama is now almost every year, let's face it, it's like automatic. It was interesting talking to some of the LSU players today about their defense, and yet we should not overlook the fact that game was scoreless through 3 quarters. Yeah. LSU played their hearts out in that game and just couldn't get the ball into the end zone against that terrific defense. But they played a great football game.
You've been down here quite a bit, and you spent time with Coach O, and we're 2 games away from not only the Sugar Bowl, but of a potentially big controversy. You keep hearing Jimbo Fisher's name mentioned,
right?
And I'm trying to imagine them introducing Jimbo Fisher on the Monday after Thanksgiving weekend, if LSU's going to the Sugar Bowl and hasn't lost a game.
I would say they've got a hold on that. Now, we know that the athletic administration here, especially the AD, great respect for Jimbo Fisher. I can understand that. When Nick Saban won a championship with the Tigers, Jimbo was the offensive coordinator.
Sure.
So it's certainly understandable. He's a great offensive coach, doing a great job. I'm not sure, looking at it from Jimbo's point of view, Paul, I'm not sure that I would leave Florida State to come and jump into the SEC West. That's just kind of my mindset. On the other hand, money talks, and you know what walks, okay? So they might be able to turn him around. But
looking like the brother of an agent.
Yes, yes. But on the other hand, I firmly believe that if Coach O continues to win, they should give him a permanent contract. He speaks to the culture here in Louisiana. It's the only place I've said where he can come and coach and doesn't need an interpreter. They love him. They wrap their arms around him. I love being around Coach O. I've pulled for him. I was around him when he was the interim coach at USC. I actually thought my friend Pat Hayden should have hired him out there between you and me. I thought he did a terrific job. I did a game in which he beat Andrew Luck in Stanford.
I remember that.
And it was a great performance. Yeah.
No, I was there that morning. I apologize.
Right.
I had to leave, but we were doing game day out there, and there was so much enthusiasm for him that night, that morning, and that was a major accomplishment.
Yeah, and there has been around here too. As I go around and talk to the folks, they really like Coach O. They're pulling for him in this particular, and that has nothing against Jimbo Fisher. I'm not,
Final thought: you've seen a lot of interesting moments, but Saturday night in Kyle Field watching the Shea Patterson show had to be fun.
Yeah, I'd heard, and here at LSU, they tried hard to recruit him, Louisiana youngster, and they got him up at Ole Miss. I was down on the field because I wanted to see Hugh Freeze, but I kind of stopped for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I watched him warm up, And I said, wow, I don't know if this translates to a game, but he's got that quick release from ear gone, ball's gone. He was practicing rolling left, which is very hard. He could get his balance. And now he's throwing against air, but he was still impressive. But here was the most impressive thing. In the game, he got better each quarter. He started to understand what the Aggies were trying to do to him. And then down 21-6, and he pulls off that great comeback in the fourth quarter. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's just one game. But he looked to me like the real deal. I'm gonna tell you this. He looks to me like he's really going to be a good quarterback. He's eerily similar physique-wise in the way he plays to Johnny Manziel. Now, let's hope when the clock strikes midnight, he forgets all that Johnny Manziel things. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, but, Paul, I was impressed.
We're always impressed with you.
Oh, thanks.
You never cease to. It
is
so much fun to see you and to be part
listen,
of it.
Your fans, I've told you this. I'm driving down the road in Montana, man. I'm smiling listening to this fan. You're going to get the Auburn colors next week, and then here comes Roll Tide, Paul. You're going to get them. You can't beat your collars. I learn a lot from them.
Thank you, Brent.
You got it, my friend.
Brent Musburger. We'll take a short break. When we come back, another pretty big legend around these parts, Marcus Spears and Tim Tebow will join us. We'll be right back.
back to the Paul Finebaum Show, presented by Johnsonville.
Well, we welcome you back. We're live in Baton Rouge. A lot of activity in this community. It wasn't supposed to be that big of a college football weekend. South Alabama was the original opponent.
I was looking forward to that one.
That was
how things
may have been an easier game. But as everyone knows, October 8th became tomorrow.
It was well done.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Tim and Marcus here.
Well
Championship Drive brought to you by Dr. Pepper, Marcus Spears, Tim Tebow. Now your baseball season, at least this year's baseball season, or at least this fall's baseball season ended
finished up yesterday, and now I get to hang out with you guys for the rest of the year.
It never stops.
Finish this year
That's
strong, right?
like a day off, huh?
Hey, by the way, you just got tapered up a little bit. It's looking sharp.
My man Smash. Rich.
Yeah, got
Shout
you
out
right.
to Rich. Yep.
Okay.
What happened?
Best barber in the land.
Down here?
Yeah.
Rich?
Could
It's
he work
Rich?
me in?
Rich.
Later?
Rich?
He can get you in.
Get him
He'll take
taped
care
up,
of
get him taped up real quick.
Yeah, I don't like the way you said he'll take care of you.
Add some hair up there. That's what he'll do.
Good to see you guys. Well, let's get right to it. We've been down here with you a number of times. This is a place with great memories for you in this game.
Good and bad, but very passionate memories. And I remember coming down here my sophomore year, and LSU, I think, was #1 in the country when we played them, and that great defense, and we just had a battle.
We just
back
watched
and
the
forth.
jump pass on.
Oh, that was my freshman year. I remember I did that in practice, and we put the play in, and I went and jumped up in practice, and Coach Meyer was like, "What were you doing?" I was like, "I don't know. I just did it naturally." And he was like, "All right,
we'll put that in there."
So before we went out there, there's only
done it before.
No, we put it that week in practice, and they had a play in Utah where they put a big fullback in, and he just took a step up and then tossed it back, and it was a touchdown. But it wasn't a jump pass or anything. He didn't run all the way up to the line of scrimmage. So I did that in practice, and it worked against our defense, which was a really good defense.
Coaches get too much credit. They get too much credit.
Now, the second game, that was your junior year. Was that the famous concussion game that you were coming?
Senior year.
Senior year.
Senior year here. Yeah, coming off of a concussion, got put to sleep versus Kentucky.
Yeah. They remind us every year.
Yeah, they do remind us every year. Yeah, I had to wake up. Probably all the smell and salts
the Tebow
down there.
highlights. Let's take a look at some Marcus
now this
Spears
is the long
highlights.
list.
What?
It wasn't easy to find these, by the way.
Old stuff.
Where is he?
Get up.
Oh, he knocked the ball down.
Get up. Paul, don't make it sound small like that.
Man,
that was
you were
third
skinny
down.
back there, Mark.
That was third down.
24th, bro.
Wasn't a great year. Wasn't a great year, man.
24th. Y'all were almost out of the rankings.
We beat y'all, though.
Whoa! That's your old basketball.
Yes.
Your old basketball skill.
Real pumped about that knockdown.
Hey, it's third down. That's like sealing the game almost.
Almost.
Yeah. We got the W. That's some big.
Sealing the game. You were still down by 4.
What? We won that, cuz.
So you came from behind.
If I wouldn't have tipped that ball, you get the first down.
Yeah.
You extend
Run the clock out.
Exactly. We don't have time.
I get it. Good. Well done, baby. Well done.
You know football.
I feel you.
I had a lot of success against Florida quarterbacks.
Let's get
Still trying the Saturday stars.
Let's get to present day, if you don't mind.
Sure.
2016.
It's 2016. This game tomorrow. Gators have not. Nobody feels good about the Gators coming in.
Well, I think the number one reason people don't feel good is injuries, and number 2 is they're not scoring touchdowns. And you look at this team, and they have the Florida team, if healthy. There's a lot of good playmakers on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But they're just healthy. And the 2 guys that I think are the most valuable inside linebackers, Anzalone, he runs sideline to sideline and make plays, and Jared Davis runs sideline to sideline and make plays. And when you're missing both those guys, it's tough to have a defense that's able to hang with Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis and all of the weapons that LSU has.
Look, it just doesn't match up for them well. I mean, offensively, they're not generating enough, and they're playing against a team that has only given up 10 touchdowns the whole year.
Amazing.
And then on defense, they would be well equipped if everybody was healthy. But now you have to deal with the run game with Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis. And now even Edling, now things are opening up for him to throw the ball because they're having success running. It just doesn't set up well. Now, with that being said, this is still Florida.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget. And we've seen.
And let's remember this series is a match. It's a rivalry where a lot of upsets happen.
It is.
A lot of upsets.
So, the one thing that because being here yesterday and then I was around the facility, the one thing I know for sure is that on LSU's side, they not looking at the injuries and saying, well, we should win this one handily. It's going to be a tough game, man. I mean, it just is what it is.
This would sound crazy at most places, Marcus, but it's a noon game. This is not a culture that's used to that.
Absolutely, and it matters. I mean, when you look at, people talk about Saturday night in Death Valley. You hear it everywhere you go. It's really a thing, though. I mean, everybody's getting primed up all day. The energy is different. What you feel from the crowd. And just the whole atmosphere. And when you play at noon, most people are just starting at that time of the day. I mean, after last night, they just starting to get going again. Especially, they just starting to get going again. So the feel when you run out into the stadium is totally different. That's why we love them. We try to schedule everyone at night.
And what I think your average fan doesn't understand about football and what we're talking about, why it's different at night, is – every time you take the field, it's not like a video game where your ranking's a 92 and you always play like a 92.
Right.
I mean, it's a scale of emotion and rhythm and confidence and, working together in a game plan, all working. And that's why great coaches are able to pull the best out of their players. And it's really trying to follow this path to get the best out of your players, because you can't show up every day and be the same player every day. You try to be as consistent as possible. But it's hard because you go through peaks and valleys, and that's why what Saban has done in Alabama is so impressive, because he gets them to compete at such a high level every single week. But he also does that because he has so many backups that are good and great coaches and great game plans. But that's what's going to be interesting tomorrow, is to see what type of LSU team do we get, because we have seen really good, we have seen average, and we have seen poor from different members and different groups of this LSU team. Which team shows up? If their really good team shows up, I don't think they lose.
The one thing about it is this, and I continue to say, like last week when I said the Arkansas game was a litmus test for Ed Orgeron. Now, it's going to matter how prepared this team is this week. Did they buy into the hype? Did they look at all of the injuries? And were they prepared to play LSU football as opposed to everything outside influencing how they thinking about it? The rivalry, the DBU stuff. Florida sitting over here with injuries. We know they struggle scoring touchdowns. If any of that matters to the team, then that's not the way to go into a football game. And then, too, going back to the schedule, when you play a noon game, you wake up at 6 a.m. and you have breakfast, and then you maybe get back to your room and you go do a walkthrough and try to have something else.
It didn't help that crazy, but Florida played a noon game last week in Gainesville, so they've done this in the last couple of weeks.
It matters. Absolutely. I hated them. I hated early games. When I was in Dallas, I hated them. When I was here, I hated them, because you get so used to a routine. Like, because most of your games are at 7, most of your games late evening. But when you step up to those early games, man, and you're one, like, my big thing preparing for a game was I always wanted to wake up early and then be able to get another 2.5 hours of sleep before we had to get on the bus. When you up at 6, you up until the game, and you already hyped, your nerves going, you ready to play as soon as you get up, and you just don't have that time to kind of settle down before the real thing starts.
He keeps his routine. He still gets another 2.5 hours before SEC Nation starts in the morning.
I get up early, go back to sleep.
You more of an early guy?
I tried to, when we found out what time the game was, I would try to set my clock according to whenever that game was going to be starting on Monday. And I would prepare for that starting on Monday. If it was an early game, then I'll wake up the same time every day through the entire week. If it was a late game, I would try to sleep in, and so I would balance it week to week.
I did not.
But I feel like it really helped me, though.
I burned the candle from both ends.
Shocking.
That's what I did.
I get up same time every day.
4?
What time for real?
Seriously.
I get up pretty early.
What time do you wake up, Paul?
Today about 5.
Are you still going for your runs?
It depends. I try to run in the morning.
How far are you running
beat the
these
sun.
days?
You beat the sun every morning.
Not every morning, but
How far are you running these days, Paul?
A couple of miles.
Couple miles?
I'm not a marathon man.
I think people need to know that you at least are a runner.
He's getting it out there, you know. He's
I'm not a great runner, but I'm a runner.
Maybe you need to take a couple of days off and just replace it with eating.
Yes.
This is a good place to do it.
It's a good place.
Guys, thank you very much. The Dr. Pepper, the championship trophy brought to you by Dr. Pepper, Marcus Spears, and Tim Tebow in the house. What a great half hour that was with Brent, Marcus, and Tim. We're live in Baton Rouge. Live in Baton Rouge, right outside of Tiger Stadium. We're at noon tomorrow local time. Place will be jumping. May not quite to the level of a few weeks ago when Alabama came in here on a Saturday night, but the game, very, very important. One of many games that will be topic A through Z tomorrow morning on SportsCenter Weekend, hosted by Sarah Walsh and our good friend Matt Barrie, who joins us. Good afternoon, Matt. Here we go. We're at week 12 of the season. Seems like just yesterday you were going through Dallas, Austin, and Orlando on the opening weekend of the season.
Yeah, Paul, how about that? You start the season with the trifecta week 1, and now we're sitting here the week before Thanksgiving. And thankfully that Florida-LSU game got rescheduled this week. At least someone in the SEC is playing a football game. My goodness.
Wow, the venom coming out early in the conversation. And by the way, Matt, it will be a topic all day long tomorrow. You know that. Many will call it Cupcake Saturday, and I'm with you on that. I don't like it. I think it's that weekend of the year that I look forward to the least, right at the time that we should be right into the intensity, pageantry, and excitement of this great game.
Yeah, and that's what gets me, Paul, is we talk about this all the time, and there's proof to the argument that the SEC has long been considered the biggest, baddest conference in college football. But I don't get what this weekend does for anybody, other than cutting the school a paycheck to come get their butts kicked on a Saturday afternoon in November. What exactly are we getting accomplished? If Auburn wants a bye week before the Iron Bowl, take a bye week. If Alabama, you find a way to get these games and schedule better out of conference, because if you just look at it where we are, and to your point, we should be reaching fever pitch of excitement for the end of this college football season, and we had to use a game that got rescheduled because of a hurricane to get us excited for the SEC tomorrow. So I'm with you. When you get to the point where we should be talking about conference championships and playoff positioning, get rid of this weekend, and if you're going to do it at the beginning of the year when people are trying to figure things out anyway.
Yeah, Matt, not to answer my own question, but the SEC regular season for most schools used to end last weekend. I'm trying to remember, in the 90s and maybe even a little bit later, the Alabama-Auburn game was on last weekend. This weekend, it was on this weekend. Let me apologize. It was on this weekend, and then there would be a break sometimes, Thanksgiving weekend, to rest up for the SEC, and then they put in a new rule disallowing that. So you ended up with this forced weekend, and without this game here in Baton Rouge, Matt, you'd have Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee as the only SEC conference games of the weekend.
Yeah, and look.
By the way, Arkansas, Mississippi State too. I apologize.
Yeah, and that one's being played. But if you look away from the Southeastern Conference for the weekend, and you look what's going on in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, West Virginia, you have to be a real football nerd like me to be excited for Washington State, Colorado, which I am. I want to see what both of these teams have. And so you kind of have to pick and choose around the country to see which conferences have some meaningful games. And now with what we're going to be talking about in the Big Ten, based on what we saw last week, every game in that league down the stretch is going to be huge, partly because of the Louisville upset and what the Big Ten's got facing them with a team like Ohio State.
Yeah, let me get your reaction to that. I mean, on so many levels. Number one, what did it mean to the rankings next week without anything else going on, and what did it mean to Lamar Jackson's seemingly lock of the Heisman Trophy?
You know, I'll start with Lamar Jackson first. I was texting with some people last night during the game about the Heisman Trophy. I firmly believe it brought players like perhaps a J.T. Barrett back into the conversation. I think if Jabril Peppers shows out tomorrow and then has a big game against Ohio State, he could find his way prominently into that conversation. And maybe a guy like Donnell Pumphrey, who's working his way up the rushing list, maybe he gets his name considered. So I still think we sit here today with Lamar Jackson the favorite. I believe that door has been open for other players to firmly walk in, especially if they close out the deal. But in terms of the playoff, I've said this about Louisville for the last month. People were enamored by three things with Louisville. They were enamored by the beatdown of Florida State, the close loss to Clemson that was the game of the year, and the highlights of Lamar Jackson on SportsCenter. Those three ingredients gave people the sense that Louisville was one of the top four teams in the country. When in reality, if you look at their body of work and the fact that they were having a hard time beating teams like Virginia, Duke, Wake Forest took from the fourth quarter, this was a team that had deficiencies. I believe because of last night, you're going to have a mess in the Big Ten, especially if Ohio State takes out Michigan next week. That and the Big 12 has worked their way back into the conversation, because I'm one of the rare people out there that believes the committee would be very seduced by a 10-2 Oklahoma team if they were to go on the road tomorrow and beat Virginia, or West Virginia rather, then win Bedlam against Oklahoma State, and with a little bit of momentum, especially if Washington State were to beat Washington in the Apple Cup.
So, do you think, I know you answered that in different ways, Matt, but do you think Washington right now is best positioned, assuming they win out?
Because of what's left on their schedule, yes, because you're looking at a team who has to beat Washington State in the Apple Cup, which is going to be a big game, but then who they might have to play in the Pac-12 South. They could get another look at USC, or if Colorado wins and beats Utah, they could get a look at a top 10 Colorado team. So I think there's enough left. There's enough meat on Washington's resume bone to work their way back into the conversation for.
Okay, so let's look at tomorrow's slate. You've already alluded. I mean, would you agree? I'm trying to get you to rank in order the games you have to watch. Would you start with Oklahoma, West Virginia? Would that be the must game of the day?
Well, honestly, I'd start. I do want to see, if you're doing it in chronological order, I think LSU Florida is going to be a really, really good watch, because I think there's still some momentum for Coach O out there in Baton Rouge. But yeah, in terms of what games mean something, big picture, Oklahoma, West Virginia, without question, is the number one game, because I just don't know if enough people are paying attention to what West Virginia is able to do. So I'd put that one. And then I'm telling you, Paul, no one knows about Colorado. No one knows about Luke Falk at Washington State. If you're a football fan, watch that game tomorrow, because it's going to be good.
Great stuff. Matt, we'll talk to you early in the morning. As always, thanks for your time on Friday afternoon. We'll really appreciate it.
All right, bud. Enjoy it down there.
You got it. Matt Barrie from Weekend SportsCenter Weekend begins tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. on the Eastern Time Zone, 6 a.m. right here in Baton Rouge, and we'll be kicking the show off with Matt and Sarah tomorrow morning. We'll take a break. We're live in Baton Rouge. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. We'll continue to work our way around the SEC. Plus, we'll finally get back to some phone calls here.
called rock and roll. And the Sultans.
Welcome back to the Paul Finebaum Show, presented by Johnsonville.
Welcome back to the program. We're live in Baton Rouge. Everybody getting fired up for tomorrow. Last college football weekend of the year in Baton Rouge. One more game after this. That's Thanksgiving night at Kyle Field in College Station. Let's continue with more calls. And Rip is in Palm Springs, California. Rip, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Paul.
Hi there.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can. I hear a lot of people.
Paul, can you hear me?
We're here, Rip. Yes, we can.
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
We're doing great, Rip. Thank you. Thank you, Rip. Good call. Really enjoyed that call, Rip. Tell the dog to pipe down the next time you call in. Let's check out Archie in Kentucky. How are you, Archie? Archie, are you there? Are you anyone there? Apparently not.
Hello.
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 Yes.
This is going back. Thanks, Archie. Appreciate it. Let me talk to the audience for a second here. If you're on hold, and you're one of the many people listening to me right now, be ready to go. If you have the phone in your hand and I say, Archie, you go next, don't wait for it to come through your television, because we have this thing called a satellite. Signal goes up to outer space. It comes down. It's a little bit later than what you're hearing it, so we prefer not every call to be, Jack, you there? Huh? Okay, let's try this again. Peyton is up next. Peyton, good afternoon. You are on the air. Good. Thank you. I should be a professor.
I was calling regarding about Mississippi State, and I was wondering if you think they'd make it to a ball game this year.
Let's see. You're going to need to win, one game or two games? I'm trying to remember the record.
We got to win two more. We got to beat Arkansas, and then we got to go to Ole Miss and beat them.
Yeah, my prediction would be no. I don't think you.
You don't think so?
To believe you. No. What have you seen?
I think we can beat.
Archie, what have you seen so far this year that would convince you you're going to win two games?
Well, we've lost 3 games by combined of like 6 points. We lost Kentucky by a field goal at the end. We lost Alabama.
Yeah, no. I know all that, Archie. I keep up. I just couldn't remember if you had 4 or 5 wins. And then you lost Alabama by how many?
We lost Alabama by like 48. We lost to South Alabama by 1.
Okay.
We did beat number 4 A&M.
Okay.
And I think we can beat Arkansas for the 5th straight year. And I think if we play good enough and we don't turn the ball over against Ole Miss, we can beat them too and possibly make a push. But it's going to be close.
I hope you're right.
I'm just wondering what you think.
Well, I don't. My prediction would be no, but thanks for the call. Martin is up next. Martin, thank you for the call.
Hey, Paul, do you remember a fellow on the radio on Saturday mornings by the name of Leonard Postosty, prognostications?
Yeah, Leonard's
Leonard Postosty in the mornings on Saturday.
Well, yeah, the name of the show was Leonard's Losers. He was from Georgia, and he was very famous. Made a lot. Thank you for the call. He was a great. He really was one of the most well-known Southern broadcasters of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Thank you for the call. Can't wait to get back to some more calls in the next 2 hours, plus more guests. Matt Stenstrom coming up next.
Welcome to Belk, official retail department store of the SEC. With more than 300 department stores in the Southeast, we get your passion. We know it's more than a game, it's a way of life. And part of the modern Southern lifestyle we deliver every day. At Belk, you'll find new looks from the best brands like Michael Kors, Fry, Free People, Under Armour, and more. All at great prices you'll love. The fashion you desire, the value you deserve. That's modern Southern style. Experience it today in store or at Belk.com.
Hey, college football fans, I'm Matt Schick. Louisville sure did make a statement on Thursday night that they're not good enough to be in the playoff. We break that game down and look ahead to the rest of Week 12 on the latest Championship Drive podcast.
Welcome to Belk, official retail department store of the SEC. With more than 300 department stores in the Southeast, we get your passion. We know it's more than a game, it's a way of life. And part of the modern Southern lifestyle we deliver every day. At Belk, you'll find new looks from the best brands like Michael Kors, Fry, Free People, Under Armour, and more. All at great prices you'll love. The fashion you desire, the value you deserve. That's modern Southern style. Experience it today in store or at Belk.com.